All right, this is just a short video about my experience replacing my toilet on my Coachmen Beyond Class B RV. So, exciting topic, I know. So if that's of interest to you, stay tuned. Okay, so just a little bit more background info. I don't know, I'm sure many of you are aware of this, but one of the things we were told to do is, occasionally dump a few bags of ice down your toilet to essentially break up any waste deposits that might have accumulated, over time. And we're getting ready to store this for a few weeks, so that's what I was doing. And so I was dumping some bags of ice inside my toilet bowl and then flushing them and so on. But in the process, my shoes became wet, and the lever that you use to flush, to add water and to flush the commode, my foot slipped off of it, and because it has a spring in it, right, it snapped back up and apparently it broke. So after I did some research, discovered that pretty near impossible to replace just the handle, and I was advised it's probably easier, maybe not cheaper, but easier to just replace the whole unit. So that's what I decided to do. But let me show you a little bit about what I'm talking about with the lever. All right, this is what I mean by the lever, right? It goes onto the side of the commode. You can kind of see what's going on here. There's essentially, I think, 3 points of contact here. And essentially this is pressed halfway to fill up the bowl with water, all the way to open the trap door, the bowl door, and to flush. This snapped up, and one of the plastic, the counterpiece to this on the toilet basically broke. Okay, so this is where this would normally install, and again, the plastic piece on this unit right here is it's no longer strong enough to do what it was intended to do. Okay, so I went ahead, secured a new toilet. This was surprisingly easy to remove, and it wasn't until that point I even decided to do this video, but I'm going to kind of walk you through what I did. But to remove this unit right here essentially involved the removal of 2 caps, 2 plastic caps. Just pried those up with a screwdriver, and then there were 2 bolts here that I'll show you that I had to unscrew, and of course my water line in the back. So I'm going to show you that inside the van. I've got some rain coming down, so I hope you can hear me, but surprisingly easy so far, okay? But we'll talk about the replacement, and I'm going to show you the new unit. Okay, I've taken some refuge here inside the van. We've got some rain outside, but let me show you a little bit more detail about what I've done so far. Okay, these are the caps that I was referring to that I removed, and the nuts that were attached to the washers here. All right, so here's where I am so far in the process. I'm gonna bring the camera in for a closer view here. All right, these are the bolts here that come up through the hole in the toilet, and just simply involved removal of those 2 things. I used a crescent wrench just to loosen them, and then I was able to finger loosen them, right, quite easily. Now, also, when we purchased our van and we took it out for a test drive the next day or 2 in a local campground near our dealer, we had a small leak that was coming from this water line into the commode. And Sunshine State RV, that's the dealer we purchased from, they actually replaced this line, and I'm glad they did, because they replaced it with one that had has a valve on here that allowed for easy removal. You probably recognize this. I mean, this is similar to what a lot of us have on our dishwashers, our dryers, that kind of a thing. So all I had to do, pry those plastic caps off, unscrew the nuts, and unscrew my water line. And of course, my toilet was drained, and I have my water pump off. All right, and this is nothing more than a caulk bead. This is either silicone or some type of bathroom caulk. I'm not sure. It's white, but I will have to peel that off and clean this off, no doubt. So I plan on using the same bolts. I'm not sure about this gasket. If the new toilet When I unbox it, comes with a new gasket. I will replace this as well. And of course, you know, throughout the process here, I'm going to disinfect and sanitize. So let's take a look at the new toilet. Well, this is the new toilet right here. Pretty impressed with the packing here. I'm going to go ahead and pry this open. I don't see this side up marking on here anywhere, but let's get it unboxed. And here's the new unit. Pretty much, yeah, it looks exactly the same, identical unit. So now for hopefully the semi-easy part, but we shall see. All right, and inside here are some assembly instructions here in the lid, I'm assuming, as well as some hardware, and it does look like there is a new gasket as well. This is interesting. What is this? Just foam? Oh, this is some type of Vaseline that they must put on the seal here to prevent it from drying and cracking. That's interesting. All right, you're going to look at these live with me, these instructions here. I think, not 100% sure, but I think we're looking at this one right here, the Aqua-Magic Style 2 with the pedal flush. It is a ceramic bowl. So those are some operation instructions, right? Troubleshooting, winterizing. Okay, so here's the installation. Pretty cut and dry. Okay, I'm just doing this so you can see what is in here in the case you need more detail, but I think all that we're going to have to do is replace that gasket, tighten those bolts, reconnect the water supply, and put a bead of caulk down there as well. I may need to do something to that O-ring. I've got to read that a little bit more closely. And if you're curious, this is what the bottom here looks like. So you can see the holes for those bolts right there. And I wanted to take a peek inside here too, because I know some people have talked about just replacing this lower unit. You can see, I can see at least 2 bolts. I'm wondering if there are more up front. Yeah, looks like there's a total of 4. I don't know how you would get to those ones way up front in there. That could be a challenge. There is a little side hole here. I noticed that, boy, that'd be a really tight space to get a wrench in there. But I hope I don't have to do this again for a while. But I don't know if any of you have ever replaced just this bottom piece. Please drop some comments and speak to, you know, how easy or how difficult it was. And here's a better view of the hardware bag with the flange gasket thing, this rubber thing here, but pretty much what we disassembled, right? I will not need these bolts. I'm going to reuse the ones that are already in there, but we have 2 new plastic caps and 2 new nuts right there, but there we go. All right, I've double checked the instructions and no additional lubricant or anything's required. We're just going to go ahead and take this and put it on as I have it shown here with this flange side down, right? Okay, next step is we're going to go ahead and bring in the bowl and just simply mount it on top of the 2 bolts. We'll reattach this. I think before I do that though, I'm going to take a little bit of time and try to remove this caulk bead. Okay, so on this project so far, the 2 most challenging things have been the uncrating of the toilet, and now it is the removal of the caulk, the bead of caulk around the toilet base. So I tried the hair dryer method, and you know, I was using a wooden shim here. I got some of the caulk bead off that way. I used a tool here, a scraper tool, to get the majority of it off. And I also had to purchase a caulk remover, and just, you know, I sprayed this onto a small cloth here. I want to be careful not to affect this caulk right here, the bead of caulk right there. I'm really just removing this outer rim here so that I have a nice clean seal on the new ones. So that seems to be working. I'm letting this last bit here that I've sprayed onto my cloth and I've wiped on here, I'm gonna let it soak for a couple minutes. I will scrape the rest of that off, and then we'll go ahead and set down the new commode. So for this step here, just make note, in order to, you know, reduce the gap here between the commode and the floor, what the instructions say is use your body weight to lower the gap. In other words, you need to sit on this thing, and it's a little difficult, but sit on it so it presses it down, it closes, it squeezes that rubber flange, that gasket, and finger tighten those bolts. And then of course I popped off and finished it with my crescent wrench and reassembled my water line there in the back. I'm going to of course test that for leaks, and if everything is good, I'll put the caps back on these things, and then we'll reinstall a bead of white silicone waterproof caulk there. So stay tuned. All right, so I've checked here, we're good. There's no leaks. I've already got a little bit of water in the bowl, but I'm going to go ahead and depress the lever here on the side just to show you here. So we've got water in the line. That's working just fine, and it's holding that. And then if I depress that lever all the way, right, it's going to flush. So I think we're in good shape. So what I'm going to do next, just as a precaution, I'm going to go ahead and treat this with the toilet seal here and condition that rubber seal here. And then I'm going to go ahead and apply my caulking here on the bottom.